Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Hey, Friday! Not just Friday, as I take my last bite of a carrot.
Right.
Jay was here early today. He was here like 10:58.
I don't know what the traffic pattern was lighter than it was supposed to be according to Waze. It's a Guardians weekend. So,
and it's a Guardians weekend on KYC.
Weekend.
And today's show is brought to us by Epicor. Epicor makes everything easier. If you want to find your shortcut to success, head over to easierwithepicor.com.
Big weekend for the Guards.
I don't know how you just eat raw carrots, man.
You don't like carrots?
I mean, them joints is just regular raw joints.
I like carrots. I like them better raw than
celery. Here's the deal, though. But you know why I do it? I'm not hungry in the morning, but you can trick your body into thinking that you've eaten a meal by eating a handful of carrots. It's a nice meal replacement, and it's a vegetable, so it's good for you. It's not like you're shoving candy bars in your gullet.
Man, I'm going to have to trick my body a different way. Them carrots ain't going to get done, bro.
Well, if you had to eat one vegetable, what would it be? Because I like celery, too, but carrots probably my go-to.
I eat greens, I eat cabbage, I eat okra, but I shouldn't eat them because they be fried.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
That don't count. I eat broccoli. I go to this. I go to this little Asian store. They got this thing called Super Greens, and they be having all kind of kale in it.
Yep.
Yeah, just munch on that in the middle of the day. Trick your body. You're not hungry. Think you've had a meal.
Man, I'm not go by Starbucks.
Those are tricks you'll have to learn when you turn 50. I didn't have to do any of that until I turned 50. When I was 49 and 364 days, I could eat 3 meals a day at Burger King, and you would never know it.
Really?
You would never know. I couldn't gain weight.
Oh,
that's wild.
But at 50, all that changed.
Alessi loves to buy sweets because the kids.
Those are
So I walk in the pantry to get oatmeal and grab a chocolate donut instead, or
listen, I
sugar cookies. We got sugar cookies in the pantry this morning. I was going to get oatmeal, ate a sugar cookie for breakfast. Like, how did that happen?
You had good intentions.
I did.
There will come a point in your life when your body tells you have to bypass the donut and go for the oatmeal.
I don't know if I have that type of
willpower.
You
do. I'm sure you do. Couple of things. I know we don't do this, but this guy has been so persistent with me. I really feel like we have to do it because he tells me that his dad is absolutely our biggest fan. Now, we all hear that a lot.
Yeah.
I see every show. I've never missed a show. Well, this guy hit me up on Instagram and said, could you please do this for my dad? He watches every day. You guys bring him such joy throughout the day. Could you please do it? So Todd Starkey, ultimate Cleveland sports show fan.
No.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And I don't know how old
Happy birthday, Todd.
Todd Starkey is. I don't think the son told me in all of his many Instagram messages, but he really wanted me to do that. Also, one other thing
You're just
I
trying to
wanted
get this guy
quickly.
to stop messaging you.
Yeah, that's it. No, we treat our fans as well as we can.
Yes.
And we've got a 2-hour show, and we've got plenty of time, so I wanted to do that. Also, I've talked about on this show, and I think it's important because Luke Floria, the undrafted free agent who earned a contract out of minicamp and is with the team, I've read a couple of things on him. I've asked around. Guys have said he's looked pretty good. I don't know if you've noticed him at all.
I was only there Wednesday, and I wasn't even looking at him.
Okay, he's number 37. He's an undersized wide receiver who had a really nice career at Kent.
Yeah. We talked about him yesterday for a minute.
You did. I don't know that he's going to make the team.
Zach said he's going to have a great career in Canada. That's what Zach said.
That wouldn't be a bad thing.
That's not bad.
That would not be a bad thing.
He said it the only way Zach can say it. It was hysterical.
Right.
Zach's, I'm sure, with a very serious, non-comedic delivery. But he is turning heads, and I'm glad to hear that. But I have mentioned on the show before that my son trained his sister, Luke's sister.
Yeah.
When she was at Menor High School. Corey was at the Olympic Training Center training for the long jump. When they closed, he had to come back to Spire, and as he was training at Spire, he started taking over and helping Paige train as a high school track star. She is the only, this is an incredible accomplishment, she's the only high school track star in Ohio to win 4 individual state championships in 1 year.
Wow.
She won the 100, the 200, the 400, and the long jump. Wow. She transferred to North Carolina, hit a bumpy patch, didn't hit her stride, wasn't jumping or running as well as she was in high school. After Corey left the Olympic Training Center and took the job at Rutgers, she entered the transfer portal and said, I want to train with you again. He's had her all year. She got on the podium at the Big Ten Championships, which now means it has a whole different meaning because now you have USC, UCLA,
like 30
Oregon, and
teams
Washington.
now. Yeah.
And those are track power.
Yes.
Oregon. That's
Oregon.
all you need
That's
is Oregon.
it.
Right.
And USC is they won the women's championship within the last couple of years. They've got a dominant program. Anyhow, she got 4th at Big Tens. She's hit a couple of PRs, which is personal records. And yesterday down in Florida, she jumped her way to the NCAA championships.
That's awesome.
So her mom was down there. Wendy and John are her parents. They're extremely proud of her. I wanted to say congratulations to her.
Yeah.
Hard worker. She's literally track royalty in the state of Ohio. She's one of one. She won.
That's incredible.
To win 4 is just incredible. So it's quite a family. Her brother Luke with the Browns and Paige jumping for Rutgers. And
What
hoping,
did mom and dad do? Were they crazy athletes? 'Cause
they
that's
must have been. I haven't talked to Corey about it, but I often ask him when he's got super athletes that he takes to the championships. I always say, what did mom and dad do?
Yeah.
And he said, the answer oddly is interesting, but more often than not, it's one or the other had a pretty good athletic career, nothing especially crazy, and the other one wasn't athletic at all.
That's crazy.
That's kind of Corey's background. Corey, his mom to sweat is, I'm not doing that. I would break a sweat. So
Speaking of track, Jay, Earl just messaged us and said his youngest daughter, Yana's 4x100 team is in the state semifinals tomorrow.
she did well last year, I think.
And Warrensville's never made the state finals in track in that particular event. So good luck to Yana.
Fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
that's
What
awesome.
do you know what year she's in now?
I'm 99% sure she's a senior now, right?
Okay, I don't know.
When is
well,
that
good luck.
today?
She's a junior or senior. I'm pretty sure she's a senior.
All right, and that's tomorrow or today?
Tomorrow, 12:30.
Where do they run? Where are they running? Do you know?
Columbus, right?
Earl teams me. He's upstairs. So
I think
as I get more
it's
information from
Columbus.
Earl,
State semifinal
we'll,
is practice.
send
Yeah,
text.
I think so.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. He's going to have to keep us updated on that. I love track and field. I really do.
Did
I was
some-
Denzel Ward a couple of nights ago. He was at his camp
Yep.
at Nordonia.
Wednesday night, I think that was.
Yeah, and we were standing on the track before we did an interview, and he was standing on the long jump pit. And he goes, I got great memories here, man. I got
Yeah.
great memories here.
Yeah.
And a lot of the football players ran track. A lot of the bigger guys threw either shot, disc,
Yep.
or javelin.
Yep.
And it's funny how to listen to them, even with all their accolades and all the things they've done, when they talk about high school track, it's always with great fondness. There's something special about it.
Yeah.
There really
Right.
is. It's a great sport.
Earl's daughter's a junior, by the way, not a senior.
Oh,
So
good.
she's a
Well,
junior,
if not this
got
year,
another shot, one
maybe
more
next
chance,
year.
yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have to remind us to get an update Monday on how she does, and good luck to her and the whole crew. We diving in?
Let's do it. Yep. Our first topic of the day brought to us by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are wrapping up, but you can still get it on the action every night with highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com/UCSS and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Jay and G weren't here yesterday when we spent the first hour of the show talking about day 2 of OTAs, which was open to the media, the quarterback competition. But there was a quote from Joe Flacco that stood out to me, and I'm curious what you guys think of Joe Flacco's quote and how it will impact the impending quarterback battle. And while we talk about the quote, I'm sure we'll get some thoughts from Jay and G on Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, and what they were able to see on day 2 of OTAs. But Joe Flacco was asked about his familiarity with the offense. Is it a similar playbook to what he ran in 2023 when he had success in December, led the Browns to the playoffs? And this is what Joe Flacco had to say. Quote, "It's a lot of similar concepts and things like that. There may be some new names and some new ways we're teaching things, but ultimately a lot of the core stuff is pretty similar. Kevin Stefanski said they're reverting back to the offense he likes to run, the 2023 version. No spread, fewer RPOs, more under center play action. But, G, do you think Joe Flacco's familiarity with the offensive system, because he played 5 games in a playoff game here with Kevin Stefanski in 2023, gives him a bit of an inside track to eventually winning that QB1 job?
Yeah. I know it's kind of bland, but that's why in the beginning I always thought that Joe Flacco, when, had the leg up. When you talk about what exactly Joe Flacco does well, it's pretty much all of the other stuff that Kevin Stefanski likes to call and run. When you got, people look at it kind of as in a vacuum a little bit, like this competition, but there's other things on the outside that play into it. Joe Flacco's been around for so long. In the league, they have a lot of times where people might call something a different thing. It might be different verbiage, but it's the same concepts. And you've been around and you've been able to be around somebody that was with Kevin Stefanski, and they say, oh, yeah, we used to do this in Baltimore, 10, 15 years ago, or I was with the Jets and we did this, and the Colts had a little something similar to that. So, Joe has the ability to have all of those concepts in his head and to understand the bigger picture. So when you look at some of the younger guys like Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, you could say something to Joe, and Joe has this really 30,000-foot view of, okay, what does the concept mean? What is the primary receiver? What am I looking at? What are my eyes looking at as far as my landmarks and safeties, and what has the coverage been giving me when I've ran this in other places before? And that's that's almost like having the answers to the test already. Like, a lot of the other guys have to understand or have to get to all those places, and he's already done it. Not to mention, he was already here at one point in time, and he has some success doing it. So when Kevin Stefanski calls that play, he can go back to his memory, and he can say, okay, I remember I was doing this against the first game against the Rams, or I remember this happened against Chicago, or, different things like that, where he can recall, figure out what he did good or bad in those situations, and it helps him out. And then plus, too, I thought the only way that somebody would really come up and take, Flacco's minutes or unseat him early in the season would be if he came out there and he was throwing the football and his arm wasn't there. But I was watching the show the other day, watched some of the other stuff, and by all intents and purposes, like Jason said, I was watching him, he says, oh, no, Flacco can still throw the ball.
Oh, he can spin it.
So if he still got that, and he already know the playbook, you in an uphill battle. You know what I'm saying? You in an uphill battle. The only thing that I could see that unseats him is if he gets hurt or his arm falls off. So his arm ain't fell off. He know the playbook. So I think he's, like I said before, I think, he starts the season off as the guy who has the best chance to start the game 1.
Yeah, I echo all that. I mean, certainly, if the question is, does it give him an edge, the answer to that is absolutely yes. He knows it. He's been in it, even though he was only in it for a third of a season. Joe's the kind of guy that's a sponge. He soaked it all up. He knew it well then. There was never a moment during his 5 regular season starts, correct me if I'm wrong, where I looked at him and he had to call an emergency timeout, or he didn't understand a play call, or he was just not present with what was supposed to happen. I think that was the thing that shocked me the most, because he was on the couch one week and he's under center the next week, and he had complete command of the playbook, and he just knew where everybody was supposed to be. And that's what a 38 at the time year old pro does. He knows how to study. He knows how to cram it in there and get it all done. And I think that was his biggest skill set coming into this year, is the fact that he's knows the offense. But the question was interesting the way it was, because the question was, does it give him a leg up in the quarterback competition, or should it come down to which of the 4 guys is the best quarterback? That's the way you had phrased it in the overnight note. And that's where it gets interesting for me anyhow, because the more I hear guys talk, and when I say guys, I mean beat reporters that cover the team every day, it seems to me to be a fait accompli that Joe's not going to win this job. Am I right, Jay? It just seems like that's where the wind is blowing.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
It's complicated, because what does playing a 40-year-old Joe Flacco accomplish for you?
And listen, I'm not asking about
Joe Flacco
why
right
they
now.
got
Joe
there.
Flacco right now is best quarterback on this roster.
And you know what? When I was thinking about this topic last night, that's the one point I wanted to stress. And I also wanted to follow it up with this. Yes, He's the best quarterback on the roster. He damn well better be. One guy's played parts of 3-4 seasons. I don't know. Pickett's been in 3
He's a starter
years.
for 2 years.
Yeah, he was a starter for 2 years. Didn't start last year in Philly. The other 2 guys haven't taken a snap. So he better be the best quarterback on this roster, even at 40 years old, because we've seen how he can throw the football. If you didn't look at the number and you just watch the footwork and the arm and the throws and the accuracy and the tightness of his spiral, he is head and shoulders the best quarterback on this team right now.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be. But that got me to the tricky answer to the second part of this question. And I'll read it again. Should it come down to which of the 4 guys is the best quarterback? Because of what you said and because of the way the wind is blowing with most of the beat reporters, it seems to be this fait accompli that it's not going to be Joe. It's just not, because they don't learn anything. Most teams, when they have a quarterback competition, this was their goal. Well, who gives us the best chance to win? Well, that's easy. Joe Flacco gives the Browns the best chance to win,
Absolutely.
period, full stop, end of story.
Yeah.
At least today.
Yeah.
But with the Browns, that's not necessarily their mission coming into the 2025 season. And I think that blinking billboard is blinking louder and stronger and faster than I've seen it blink. This is, to quote your phrase, the gentleman's punt that's happening in May, last day of May. Is that the right? It might be the right thing to do. But I'll tell you, as an aged fan who only has so many shots left in the chamber to watch this team try to do the unthinkable, when you're 59 and life expectancy is 78,
I hear you.
and you've got 19 bullets to fire,
Yeah.
you don't want to fire one off intermittently
I hear you.
and not even aim at your target. And that's what they're doing, and there's just a loser's mentality. I understand it's for the greater good, but that to me is equal to throwing games in December so you can try to get a better draft pick in May.
If there's 17 games.
April.
If there's 17 games this year and Joe Flacco starts 13 of them, 14 of them.
We got a problem.
What did you learn?
Nothing.
When we get to the end of the season, my hope, looking at these 4 quarterbacks, you look at Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Shedeur, and Dylan Gabriel. My hope when we're at the end of the season, Shedeur Sanders has the most starts of anybody on this roster.
I would say that would be the best thing for this team.
Because he's the only one that I look at and say, you might have a future with him. You better find out what you have.
Right.
I don't think you have a future with Dylan Gabriel. I don't think you have a future with Kenny Pickett. I don't think you have a future with Joe Flacco. Shedeur is the one guy that you look at and you say, there might be something there.
Yeah.
We got to get a look at that. So if it's anything other than Shedeur, unless he gets hurt, obviously you got to throw injuries out. If there's anyone more who doesn't get more game reps or more game starts than Shedeur, I think that's a mistake. Unless they come to the conclusion it's not him, he's got to go.
But what about so that leads me to what my next question was, because Joe Thomas, when he was on the show after the draft, said very bluntly and matter-of-factly, we'll know real fast which one of these guys can play and which can't.
I remember that.
And so based on that, I'll ask another question. When the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers with a firm number 1 ahead of him that at the time no one thought was going anywhere in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So you were looking at Aaron Rodgers as the future but not the immediate future.
Right.
Why wasn't it talked about then with Aaron Rodgers what the Packers did with that situation that worked to perfection? And by the way they replaced Aaron Rodgers is the same way they replaced Brett Favre.
Yes.
They went out and drafted Jordan Love, who had to sit and watch.
Yes. It's a high-functioning organization that did it the right way.
And because of that,
they took
I
a lot of heat in the moment because they didn't supply their quarterback with weapons.
No, I get
Aaron
that.
Rodgers wanted weapons, and they didn't give him weapons. They gave him Jordan Love. They gave him his replacement.
And listen, he had
And
every right to be
They took a lot
upset.
of heat. And there isn't always a winner and loser. Both sides could be right.
Yeah, you're right. And that's so the reason I bring that up is because we have seen situations with prominent quarterbacks in the last 10 years that have come into the league, and I know with Aaron Rodgers it's longer than that, but I'll use Patrick Mahomes as an example. When Patrick Mahomes was drafted, I think the thought there was he can sit, he can watch. Was it Alex Smith that was ahead of him? Mm-hmm. He can sit, he can watch, and all of a sudden when it came his turn, and that was whenever the organization decided he is ready for the ball, let's make the transition. I feel like that transition could happen here, and here's what I mean by that. What if Joe is the best coming out of training camp? Do you really want to give the gentleman's punt to your team in week 1 and throw one of the kids out there when they're not ready because you have nothing to gain by playing a youngster too soon?
Can I throw this? Can I be devil advocate?
Yeah, you can, but let me finish my point here. I think what I would think, I know that you're saying if Shedeur doesn't start the most games, we don't learn anything. What's wrong with if Joe's the best quarterback and he gives us the best chance? This is the same guy who 2 years ago came in off the couch and rallied a 4-1 to punch a playoff ticket. So what's the harm in giving him the first month, maybe longer, to see where this goes? We're thinking 0-6 is a possibility, crew. 0-6 is a possibility with this schedule.
I'm going to let you go.
What if he comes in 3-3 through the gauntlet part of the schedule, and then once you realize if it turns into 6-8, and now you go, okay, and I know it's only 3 games, but now you pull the trigger and say, okay, Shedeur, now it's yours.
That's not enough because you have 2 number 1 picks. That's not enough time for Shedeur. Go ahead, G.
So what if? So there's been a popular theory going around that says maybe Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are not on the hot seat. We talked about it.
Well, I think it's been said by the owner they're not.
Okay.
General managers who are on the hot seat don't trade down to acquire first round.
So
picks
not willingly.
So let's extrapolate that out. If they say, okay, we got Shedeur Sanders, we got him in the 5th round, we got all these other quarterbacks, and we looking around. And then they go through the season, they go through camp and say, look, man, we feel we got something here. But Joe is a better player. Joe, at this point, is better equipped to handle the starting role, handling the season. And they get off to not what people would expect to be a bad start. What if they get off to a 500 start?
That's why I said 3-3 through 6. I would, if 3-3 through the first 6 would be like scaling Everest.
And if Joe can do that, what if the organization says, look, well, listen, we like Shedeur good enough that we do think he's a future starting quarterback for us? We might let him sit. What if he sits the entire year? What if he don't even see the field? Shedeur Sanders don't see the field. Joe Flacco plays the season out. Your record is what your record is. And could it possibly be that the Cleveland Browns have already can make an evaluation saying, we like him, he fell to us in the 5th round. We're going to let him sit, mature, do whatever we want, get into the system, learn from Joe Flacco, and do exactly what people have been clamoring for forever. Not like me. I'm like, you got to play tomorrow. But what if they saying, all right, we're going to let you sit like Mahomes. We're going to let you sit like Jordan Love. We're going to let you sit like some of these other guys. Aaron Rodgers. And we'll see what you do. And you come in next year, and guess what? Now you have a whole year that you sat and watched. You didn't do anything. And you got to learn from somebody. And the rest of the 2 quarterbacks are under 1-year deals. So now you go into next year with an opportunity with 2 first-round picks that you can do other things with besides quarterback. Is it possible they can make that evaluation on Shedeur Sanders that they like him enough that they don't even have to play him this year, but they'll play him next year?
I think that's possible. Do you, Jay?
No.
You don't?
No.
Why?
No.
If he doesn't play at all this year, they're taking a quarterback in the 1st round next year.
Really?
Period. Oh, yeah.
Done. So
Done.
Then here's what I would say to that.
But
They like Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Yeah,
they really like Dorian.
They did, but you know
until
what?
Until they threw him in the game and they said, oh, my God.
I think then you have your answer. You see him every day in practice. You see him every day. And I understand that live bullets are a totally different thing. But to say that absolutely if he doesn't hit the field, then you have to go quarterback next year, then you've already made the assessment that this isn't your guy. If he's your guy, he'll beat Joe Flacco.
They made the decision when they traded down, they're taking a quarterback next year. When they traded Dylan Gabriel, they made the decision they're not taking Shedeur Sanders. They're leaving him for somebody else. They never thought when they took Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, Shedeur Sanders was still going to be there in the 5th round.
No, I know they didn't. That was an emergency move.
So they were very comfortable with not having him in Cleveland.
Right.
And then they got to the point where it's like, well,
we might as well.
We might as well take a shot. Look, he's still here. It's a value pick at this point. Let's take a shot. But if they don't play him all season long, they're telling you what they think about him.
The odds of that happening, though, by the way,
nil.
What team has 1 quarterback start all 17? But nobody's doing that at 40.
But I'll say this. You don't really have a choice. Like, if Joe Flacco is out here and they get off to a start where they're competitive and they're in the hunt.
Yeah, you're not going to bench him.
You're not taking him out the game. You're not. First of all, the fans won't let you. No. Second of all, the veterans on the team will not let that happen. They will be up in arms because they're going to say, listen, guys, you punted on the season. Joe is playing well. These other guys are rookies. I'm just saying it like this. We've been talking about it forever. We've been saying that the Cleveland Browns have an opportunity. Hey, why don't you do it like some of these other people do, right? I get that Shedeur is a 5th-round pick, but there's a chance that the Browns see something in him for the future and say, well, look, we're not content. We're content with letting him grow and develop like we said we was going to do, and we're still got veterans in here that can help us try to win some football games. Sure. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, especially if your theory is correct that they're not in any sort of danger of losing their jobs tomorrow. I definitely think that might be a situation.
I will say this about the hot seat. Someone once told me about, we were doing this debate once, and I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been over Mike Shanahan, but I can't remember. We were doing this debate on whether or not the seat was hot. And one of our analysts said this, and it was so prophetic, and I keep hearing it. What NFL seat isn't hot? Yeah. Every seat in the NFL is hot. I mean, save Bill Belichick when he was in New England, and Andy Reid now in, remember, Sirianni was a hot young star rising through the ranks, had an awful season 2 years ago. There were people in Philly that wanted him fired, unceremoniously let go. The guy wins the Super Bowl the next year. So your fate and fortune in the NFL hinges on the next game. I know it's really not that week to week, but let's face it, for an administration, and I'm talking about Stefanski and Barry, that have had the checkered past that they've had, and I don't mean checkered with controversy, I just mean good year, bad year, good year, bad year. When you're not consistently good, your seat's warm, and it's a few weeks from being hot. So I know that the owner can say all he wants, they've got my vote of confidence. What is that typically meant historically? Well, when the owner says that,
I've said this multiple times, but it bears repeating one more. I talked to someone who worked there, who got a glowing review at his annual review, a glowing review from the Haslams, fired 2 weeks later.
Yeah, there you go.
So you're trusting a highly emotional owner to not make an emotional decision in October and November.
When his history has been...
So, yeah, there's risk in that, for sure.
Yeah.
But one other thing, you said if Flacco's playing well, they can't bench him. I show you Johnny Manziel and Brian Hoyer. The Browns were in the playoff hunt.
Yeah.
They were in the playoff hunt, and they benched Hoyer for Manziel.
Now, is there difference, though, the gravitas that Hoyer brought compared to the gravitas that
doesn't matter.
Joe Flacco brings?
It's a veteran. It was a veteran who had the team in the playoff hunt, and they benched him.
Yeah, but
for
Jay,
a guy who never started the playoffs.
I'll just say
But we saw Flacco go to a playoff game.
He's done it. And at the risk of being hyperbolic, which I love to do, let's just say instead of 3-3 through that gauntlet first 6 weeks, if you go 4-2,
oh man,
Joe's not sitting down until they're 2 or 3 games under 500, and you're waving goodbye to the season.
Do you know how many T-shirts I'm gonna print? It'd be 4-2.
That's
I got a whole.
Jay,
look at that schedule.
Serious.
What's the percentage chance? Pull that back up, Steve. That you think the Browns can go 4-2 to start the season?
The same chance I would have given him coming off the couch and taking the Browns to the playoffs. What that is, I don't know. Single digits.
I will eat the oatmeal over a sugar cookie before the Browns go 4-2.
I know that. Listen, I get it. I said at the risk of sounding hyperbolic, they're not going 4-2.
No.
Okay, and that would be a lovely problem for the Browns management to have.
Yeah.
But it's something that Browns fan base would welcome with open arms. We want 4-2. Yes, we want our future quarterback, but we don't want another gentleman's punt on a season. I don't. I'm running out of years, man. I want a championship.
Last year was rough.
Yeah?
It was rough.
I don't need one of those
It was
anymore.
rough.
All right, we got our guests ready, so let's bring in Curtis Danberg here after a quick word from Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work in taking pride in what you build and practicing every detail to get the best results, but no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the win easier, and at Epicor, the all-stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices, from small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global vision. We'll equip you with the right tools to move forward forward, think ahead, and lead the way, because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most out of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier finds the lane. Discover your success at www.easierwithepicor.com. That is easierwithepicor.com. And with that, we are thrilled to welcome in Curtis Danberg to the show. The Guardians are taking on the Angels tonight on WKYC, and Curtis is here to help us preview the big contest. How you doing today, Curtis?
I'm doing great.
Welcome,
great to
brother.
be with you.
Hey, we're business partners again.
I know. It's awesome.
So our relationship with the Indians/Guardians went back
20
a decade,
years.
20 years.
20 years.
And there was a moment this spring where I thought, what a shame. It's been great having the partnership where we air a number of regular season games on over-the-air free TV, which it seems to be a thing of the past, but might be a thing of the future, hopefully.
Yep.
And I had kind of, we did the gentleman's handshake. Like, it's been fun. And then all of a sudden, I get this memo handed to me, and they said, this is going to go hot in a little while. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, this is a joke, right? I thought, it's April 1st?
Yeah.
Because I think it was around April 1st. But boom, the Guardians and WKYC have a partnership. Explain to people that don't know what that means, what that entails.
Yeah, it was great to extend that partnership, like we said. So deep-rooted for so many years.
Yeah.
But we went through this whole new kind of approach to our TV situation, and we brought it in-house with Major League Baseball. We created CLEGuardians.tv, but it was an important element to maintain that over-the-air and that free TV component to this. So when we were able to get a deal done, enabled us to not only, we've been doing 2 games for many years recently, we're jumping to 10 games. So tonight is the debut of our simulcast that will extend throughout the whole season for 9 more games after tonight.
So it averages about almost 2 a month, right?
Yeah, in essence, a lot of Fridays, a few Tuesdays based on how the schedule's played out, but very excited. Mostly home games, but it's a great chance for people that aren't watching us the chance to see us. And that was the best part of CLEGuardians.tv. I mean, we were down to only like 30% of the market, even have the ability to watch us. So now you take away the blackouts, and we've been able to extend that and expand. I think it was going into the year, it was going to be over 230% increase.
No kidding.
Yes.
Well, the TV situation is so tricky, not just here locally with the Guardians, but the TV landscape in sports, even nationally, is changing rapidly. And you're going to see in a short period of time, and by short I mean 5 years. 5 to 10 years, I think, is the ultimate window. Everything's going to be streamed. All the sporting events are going to be streamed, and likely team run. The reason I wanted to, and I'm sure you hear this every day from fans, but I have some friends that don't spend the money for the extra programming rights to get all the games. They just don't. But they love the Guardians and they love baseball. But they've told me, because I've asked many of them over the last month, has your interest waned in baseball over the years because of availability? And every single person, and I don't know what it is, 30, 40, they've all said the same thing. Well, naturally, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to watch them because I don't pay for the expensive upgrades on the cable. So I try to get to a game or two a year, but out of sight, out of mind. And Jason uses a term all the time talking about Browns fans and how the last 2-3 decades, or really, has washed a generation of fans out of the mix. Younger kids today don't look at the Browns the way we did because they're irrelevant. And you've been at the height of relevancy, but you haven't been front of mind on the air. How does the Guardians organization hope that this deal changes that moving forward? Because for some people, they now get at least 10 games a year.
Yeah, we see there's a huge upside. And the good news is we have seen attendance growth over the past few years despite that. So you put that in we just finished our renovation. So now you're going to bring in new fans to the ballpark, but they're seeing it on a more regular basis. So we expect us to, I don't want to say skyrocket, but we're just going to see a climb because of that.
Good.
How do you think this is going to go? Jay mentioned the next 5-10 years. What is this going to look like next year, 2 years, 3 years from now in terms of being able to see all the games?
I wish we had a crystal ball.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things coming. There's a lot of headwinds coming as it relates to the CBA and that being up in a couple of years. And as Jay said, there's so much change happening. It's going to look a lot different in the next 3 to 5 years.
It feels like Rob Manfred's ultimate vision here is for Major League Baseball and its teams to be the rights holders.
Yes, in a perfect world. So we've went from 3 to 6.
Why would you bring in a middleman on your product?
Right. But there's a lot of reasons why that's difficult to do, especially in big markets. And
Well, it used to be distribution, right?
Right.
But that hurdle, you guys are knocking that hurdle down.
Yes.
This is the one question I really wanted to ask you, because
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a buddy of mine a couple days ago who's in rights acquisition, and I told him, I had asked him the question. He goes, "That's a great question. I don't know, but the people I ask all have different answers." Are you guys a bit of a barrier breaker? And are you along with other teams that have done this, are you guys more the model of the future, where the team has everything in-house, there's no middleman, sports channel or Bally's or anything else, it's all controlled by either Major League Baseball or the team? Is that where we're going?
I hope that's the case. And we are an early adopter. So we're one of 6 teams that are in this MLB model. And we've seen that, and we left a lot of money on the table to do this.
Right.
Because
it's a long play, right? Financially
it's a long,
for you guys.
100% it's a long play.
Yeah. I'll throw this out there just because I don't know if it was discussed internally or not, but when I was in my college years, I was writing a paper. Essentially, it was my thesis, my graduation thesis paper, and I wanted to do sports, the number of games that are broadcast on TV, and how that impacts a team's local attendance. And I couldn't find anybody that had really done anything like that. And then I came across a Ted Turner study. Ted Turner was a visionary in broadcast media. We were having a conversation. Today is the anniversary of Dennis Eckersley's no-hitter, May 31st, 1977. That game was not on television. And we had a group conversation in our chat where our coordinating producer texted, "Did you guys watch it?" And I immediately fired back, "No one did. It wasn't on TV. That was a different time." Ted Turner wisely said, and the reason they were 40 games on a year or whatever the number was for each team was because they were afraid it was going to hurt the gate.
Right.
Well, if you only can see it in person, then you're going to come to the game and that will help attendance. And Ted Turner did a study, and it was a real life study. He just said, "I'm going to put every single game on Channel 17 in Atlanta," which became WTBS, and it became the Superstation. He launched a satellite, and he showed all the games nationally on TV. And the thinking was, oh, it's going to kill the gate. Who is going to want to come out on a Wednesday evening and watch the Braves play the Cardinals when they can sit at home and watch it on TV? Well, he found what you just talked about on the long play. He found what they did is they built a legion of fans, not just in Atlanta or Cobb County or Georgia, but they had them in San Diego and New York and everywhere in between, because their product was available every single game.
I was a big Dale Murphy fan because of that.
I
had a
was
Dale
too.
Murphy glove.
I used to watch the Braves games. I love Dale Murphy.
Get home from school and the games on.
And those teams weren't great.
And they come on at 8:15, and it was weird. It was strange. I'm like, "Dad, how come the Braves play every game on TV and the Cubs?" I watched WGN.
Well, the Cubs had GN, and that was a Superstation.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the start time. That was funny too, because Ted Turner, again, a visionary, decided that all TV shows start at 8, 8:30, 9 and Ted Turner, when he was programming his Superstation, said, "No, 8:05." What?
That's weird.
Because once I've got you for 1/2 hour, there's nothing you can flip to at 8:35 that's just starting. I've got you for the night. The guy was brilliant when it came to TV programming.
I'm trying to listen. We didn't got to all the business, but I got to ask you a question. This might not even be appropriate.
Oh boy!
But I've been.
How about that
She's known
setup?
for that.
Hey, look. Hey, Steve at home, like, "Oh my gosh, what's in that cup?" You know, I'm a gear guy. I got to see the gear. I've been noticing, Curtis. I've been at the malls. I've been around places. I'm starting to see the resurgence of Chief Wahoo. I see some more hats. I'm like, where these come from? This is a sanctioned store. This is lids. This is there something brewing with this, or is it going away? How is that possible? Because I'm seeing them.
So it is not. I mean, Chief Wahoo is not
Chief
coming
is dead.
back.
Yeah.
But we didn't get rid of the Chief Wahoo. We'll still allow fans to come to the ballpark and wear that gear. So
well, I would hope so.
It's still part of our history. So that was an important element. Like, if you get rid of all merchandise, then you lose the trademark rights. So there's an element of that from that. But there was a
nostalgia
story when we were in D.C. playing the Nationals that somebody just threw out there that we were having conversations. There was no
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
media tie-in at all. Just somebody threw it out there and ran with it. But yeah. No, we're the Guardians.
Yeah, and I don't think that's changing anytime soon. I mean, who knows? You can't predict who owns the team 20, 30 years from now, what the temperature in the room might be at that point. But, yeah, every indication is
and we've had a lot of success
with
it. And, again, that's not to disparage, and we certainly, again, the Chief and the Indians, an important part of our history, but we've seen attendance growth, and we've it's been about Cleveland is where the name came from.
The stadium looks awesome.
Yes.
What part of the renovations do you like the best, and what is still to come?
What's still to come? We're pretty much done, except for we just have the last phase of the seats going from from green to blue in the corners. The clubhouse is ridiculous, but for me, the terrace hall. So this is the 4th floor of the old Terrace Club. We elevated the ceiling. It's open to everybody that comes into the ballpark.
That's the great thing about it.
Yeah, and it's phenomenal. If we just sold out the June ballpark pass, so those are gone. But if you have a ballpark pass, or if you want to go up there, it's a great place to hang. You're undercover. You've got 2 bars. You've got great food. They've got a fried bologna sandwich in there. You've got Reuben rolls from Gunselman's. It's a great setup. That's been my favorite.
You and I talked about it before. It is probably the best view, is it not?
It's unbelievable. Yeah, you got that. You're at an angle, especially on the edge.
Yeah, and the fact that it's open to everybody now.
It's open to
everybody. How many does it hold? Is there a cutoff if you don't get in?
There is. I think it's like 400, 500 people. Okay. But now we have an escalator, so anybody comes in through the Meyer Gate in left field, you go escalator, you go past the KeyBank North Coast Social. You need a special ticket for that. Take the escalator one more thing, and you're in the terrace hall. Wow. It's awesome.
It is incredible. We had a conversation yesterday on Channel 3, Nick Camino and I did, and it was interesting because I agreed with his premise. His general premise is that a lot of fans right now feel like the team's misfiring, not playing great baseball. And Nick and I were actually in agreement on something. I said, wait a minute, let's just take the most recent sample size. And I know that the 6th game out is what makes it feel like that, especially when you're comparing it to last year where it was wire to wire and there was never any, it was, that's not a fun season. I don't like where we are now. I like where we were better last year. But at least this season, everything seems to have meaning and drama. But my point to Nick was, okay, let's just take the last 7 games. Because a lot of fans are saying, they're not playing well, even right now. Despite the fact that they took the first 3 from Detroit in a huge series at Detroit, and then they lost 3 in a row. But I said, if you just look at it in a 7-game stretch, you played the best team in the American League, the best team in the National League, in a 7-game series, and you won the series. Yeah, you took 4 of 7. That's a World Series. And these are World Series caliber teams. So why does it feel, though, that something is not exactly right?
Yeah, I think we've gone through that gauntlet. But we're waiting on the hope. And again, Shane Bieber, Trevor Stephan, we've got a lot of, we probably won't see John Means for a while, but we have some injuries that we've had to overcome. But look at what Jose Ramirez has done. Quan should be back in the lineup today.
Yeah, what was
we're
the
5
issue
games
with
over
his
500.
Wrist?
Wrist.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he's okay. He should be back in the lineup. But we're right there. We're in the top wild card spot, and we haven't. To your point, we haven't played our best baseball.
Right. And boy, you've played. It's been
but we've had some big
schedule.
wins. That win on Wednesday was
big,
huge,
massive.
Nobody saw that coming.
I'm going to ask you a question that's really not fair to be asked of you. This is a vote question, or Antonetti, or Cherney, or somebody other than you. But we're going to talk about it in our TV show. It's just been a mystery to me at what's going on in the 2-hole. Before the season started, when it was floated that we're going to try Hosey in the 2-hole, I came on here the next day and I'm like, what? No. That means he's got 8, 9, and 1 in front of him. And 8 and 9 are going to make outs more often than not, and you can pitch around Quan, and if you got a bag open, you can pitch around Hosey because, it just didn't make sense to me. And it's culminated with what we saw, and I know it was a short sample size, but putting Bo Naylor in the 2-hole, when they did it, I'm like, are they drawing out of a hat? It seems to me Angel Martinez is the perfect 2-hole hitter. He's the guy that had the big hit on Wednesday. Any indication? Is this going to be a season-long tinker? I thought they got it right.
As
with
you
Matt
said
Martinez.
at the outset, I'm not the guy to answer
I know you're not. I want some insight, though. I need insight.
But, we're always looking at the numbers and trying new things and see what sticks. But Angel, voters said it, he has that slow heartbeat. And that was a big hit the other day.
That was massive.
Yeah.
But up to that point, he had really been struggling.
Yeah, but I mean, I think his body. If you can put, if your two hitter can hit 270 with just a little bit of pop, I just need somebody to get on base. I can't have a 200 hitter. I don't understand what Bo Naylor did. We're going to talk about that in the TV show. I don't know if that was like he won the contest and he gets to hit in the 2-hole for the. And I don't mean to be overly critical. I'm just being a fan, and that's what fans do.
Jay,
but,
be a fan?
I know. I'm emotional. Listen, I
emotional? I
I
didn't
often
know
say
that.
on this show, I'd be the worst general manager because I would fire and hire guys on 2 or 3 games.
When I have to sit here with both of these guys,
He's the Duke of knee-jerk.
Yeah, the Duke of knee-jerk.
And my heart beats outside my body.
Well, we're going to get to
We
that.
love the passion.
I got to ask
Oh,
you,
I have the passion.
Oh, I'm well aware.
I got to ask Curtis, we talk about it all the time because we talk about all 3 teams. And I compare it to like siblings, right? And, there's the middle child, and then there's the youngest child, and then there's the big brother that can do no wrong. And we already know the big brother be messing up a lot of times in the city. Do you guys feel like you, from a marketing standpoint, you get a fair shake from the fans? Because right now, I'm just, in the backdrop is, we're giving the Cavs hell right now. The Cavs is catching it. They're catching it right now. But do you feel like sometimes you feel like you and the Cavs, you guys don't get the benefit of the doubt from the fans sometimes?
Fair shake from the fans or the media?
Oh,
Well, listen,
I like
we
that.
can't ask him to criticize the fans.
Right.
That would
but you
be
can
cutting
kill
off
the media.
your-
Let's
But
get
you know
to
what?
the media guys.
Listen, this is a great opportunity. We did
Right.
this once. We did this
Right.
once on First Take, where Chris Carter had mentioned something about how all media members that never played the sport need to shut up. And it turned into a 2-day debate between he and Skip Bayless.
I just watched that.
And it's up on YouTube. It's got millions of views. I had a front row seat. It was fascinating. Let's sort of do that here. We have thick skin.
Can I give you my take?
Yes, we want.
My take is this. It drives us nuts on why the media and the fans want to pit us against each other.
I don't understand that either.
That's my biggest push is all the time you hear sports talk and everything, everybody wants to pit us against. We are all from the same city. We're the same team. Like, we are at our best and we drive attendance when all 3 teams are doing well. Like, I don't want the Browns to not do well and the Cavs for the betterment of us. We want all 3 teams to do well, and it drives me nuts when everybody wants to pit us against each other.
And that's fair. That's a fair criticism. Jay, you can weigh in on this. As a member of the media, I will tell you that there is that natural inclination to compare. We do it all the time on this show. Compare what the Guardians do compared to what the Cavs do compared to what the Browns do.
But to be devil's advocate, I think they do it a little bit too because we understand in this market you're fighting for
limited
eyeballs,
entertainment dollars.
and you're fighting for those dollars. So if you got a family that's going to say, all right, I'm gonna go to one sporting event this year. All 3 teams are competing to see which one of those dollars, those limited dollars, it goes to. So it's not as it's kind of a competitive thing because you want your product to shine, right? Yeah. You want to be saying, hey, come on out, we got the best product.
Curtis, I was working in Columbus when it was announced that the Blue Jackets were coming to town, and I have to tell you, I had never, and I was young. I'd only been in the business a handful of years. I wasn't yet 30, and I remember thinking to myself, at the reaction of the university, grown adults, the athletic director at the time, other people in athletics were losing their minds and actually working behind the scenes to keep that from ever happening. They didn't want a pro sports team in Columbus. Okay, why? Because it's a Buckeye town. They own it. They don't want the competition. And I'm watching this going, wow, I can't believe what this grown-ass man is doing and how he's maneuvering and politicking and actually trying to hurt the city by keeping a pro sports team from coming to town. And it was fascinating for me to watch. And then I asked somebody in athletics who was not the athletic director but was way up the food chain, why? And they said, if I throw $1 in the middle of the room and there's one person to get it, I know where it's going. If I throw $1 in the middle of the room and there's 2 people that are going to dive on it, I might get lucky and get 50 cents. And I'm like, you guys are the Ohio State University. Understand your place in the pecking order. It is and will always be. And that city now loves the Blue Jackets. This was 30 years ago. Go do a poll in Columbus and ask them, Crew, Blue Jackets, or Buckeyes, who do you have? That will never be a dilemma. They're not going to get 100% of the dollars like they used to, but you can only fit 100,000 people in the stadium. I never understood their pettiness in that argument. And for the Browns, they're always going to be what the Buckeyes are in Columbus to a lesser extent, because obviously the Cavs and the Guardians are bigger than the Crew and the Blue Jackets in Columbus. But there's enough for everybody to eat. And I appreciate that criticism because I do think it's fair. I don't understand it. I've said on the show oftentimes, I don't understand. Well, I feel like we have a divided fan base. We oftentimes, it doesn't matter what the subject is. We've seen it 8, 10, 12 times. Oftentimes it's over a player, but sometimes it's over teams. We can fight and scream and yell and pull each other's hair out. I just look at us like, guys, to quote the Cavs catchphrase, all in here. Let's just all support all of them, and let's root for the betterment of the team. But it just doesn't seem to go that way.
Here's what I'll say on the whole thing. I think Cleveland is very fortunate to have 3 pro sports teams.
Very.
If you,
100%.
I don't know. You might know this. I don't know, but I think I'm right. If you look at the wealth, for lack of a better term, of Cleveland, to have 3 teams, it's probably the poorest city in America to have 3 teams.
I would imagine
it's in the bottom.
It's the smallest
section.
TV market to have 3 teams.
There you go. That's probably a better way to say it.
Detroit has 4. The interesting thing about Detroit and Cleveland, we are both diminishing population cities. The population of the United States constantly shifts, but there's a noticeable shift over the last 30 years from Rust Belt to Sun Belt. The amazing thing to me, Jay, is that even at a time of expansion, you've got teams, and I'll just throw out a couple. Nashville is I believe, the largest growing city in the United States of America. They would die for a Major League Baseball team.
Oh, they're going to get one.
Yeah.
But
just a matter of when.
Vegas, now they're in the market. Charlotte. There are
Portland.
a lot of other teams that are in the South. I'm surprised that Orlando has been stuck at 1 because Orlando's got a booming population base.
Florida's not a good sports.
No, because it's transient and they're from everywhere.
Yeah.
I worked in Tampa and I learned that firsthand. They're not. When you go to Rays games, the sellouts or the bigger crowds would be the Yankees and the Red Sox, and everybody would come down.
I just hope fans appreciate having 3 teams because I've said that before. We are
lucky.
It is very rare. This should be a 2-sport town. Honestly, if you want to be real about it.
If you look at our population as it stands today,
we're very fortunate to have 3 teams here,
and it's going to stay that way. Correct?
Yes.
I mean,
all better.
Long term,
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Better.
You know something I know?
No.
Are you the longest tenured employee
No,
of the Guardians?
Bobby D.
Oh, Bobby D, that's right. Oh, I'm sorry,
Bobby's
Bobby.
season 46, 47 in baseball.
That's
We
insane.
have Sarah Lurkey, Wendy Hoppel are 41.
But he left for a time.
He left for a year to the Braves.
to the Braves.
and
oddly
learned from
enough.
Ted Turner for
Yes.
1 season.
Yes. But so you might be the longest. No, because he came back before
Bart
you
Swain,
started.
even. Bart's
ahead of
This
you.
is season 30 for me, and he's season 34, I believe. So
listen,
That's
I've
great,
said
man.
this
It's
a
before.
good run.
I've told you and
love
I have
it.
had this conversation. I've written this. I've said this. The Guardians are the model of stability in
1,000%.
this town.
Yes.
And if you want a team that is run the right way, I'm not just saying it because you're sitting here. We've said
don't
it.
pit us against each other.
Well, I'm not. I'm not. But I'm just saying. Like there are teams who are emotional and erratic, and they're making changes constantly, and there are teams that have stability, and the Guardians do it in a stable way where it allows you to build something and grow. And that's why you've been able to hold on to Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff and all these guys. That's
That's
why
it.
Tito
goes
was
to
here as
ownership.
long as he was.
We
Yeah.
love working for the Dolan family. They let us do our jobs. They give us all the resources we need.
Yep.
It's not an even playing field, and that's a topic for a
Boy,
different day. But
that was obvious in the Dodgers series. I think their payroll's
Yeah.
$400 million. And the Guardians, is it at $100 million? I don't
come on,
know.
man.
But, I mean, when you're looking at a team, that's not a level playing field. That's baseball's fault. I don't blame anybody. I mean, yeah, the Guardians could spend more money. There should be a cap on what the Dodgers can spend. But that's a baseball problem. They're
that'll be talked
acquiescing
about
to
here in the
bigger
next
markets.
few years.
And you know what? The last question, and we'll kiss you goodbye on this. In this next agreement, which is 2 years away, or
2.
okay, in this next agreement, what are the chances that disparity gets addressed?
That's the $1 million question.
Is it going to be a front of mind issue, or is everybody happy with it because when you get the Dodgers and the Yankees in the World Series, everybody wins?
That, like I said, that's the $1 million question, and I think there's been so much disparity in the past couple of years, and if you do see a Yankees-Dodgers, it's going to tell that story even more.
Yeah.
They got military budgets. That's crazy.
It is insane. It's not fair.
Trillion.
If you're going to have a team in the same league, you should be spending around the same amount of money. It'd be like in football if Ohio State got 200 scholarships, but someone else in the Big Ten got 50. That's just not going to work. All right, Curtis, have fun tonight.
Yes.
I know you do every night at the ballpark.
Giving away this shirt tonight.
Is that the giveaway?
Tonight, free shirt Friday. We got fireworks. We got dollar dogs. We got the $2 beers pregame in the district. And then Tanner Bybee bobblehead tomorrow and our first Kids Fun Day on Sunday.
I should know this because I sit next to Betsy Kling for an hour every day on the air. Are we okay weather-wise tonight?
Yeah, I think we're good. Betsy's going to be down live in the field with Nick Camino.
Great.
So I think like later this evening is when we might see some rain showers. So optimistic, cautiously optimistic. There's the good Guards ball.
Very good.
There you go.
All right, Curtis, great. Thanks for stopping by.
Come down to the ballpark.
We appreciate it. Yeah, head
Go
on
Guards.
down there and watch Jose Ramirez try to extend his hitting streak to 22.
He's at 21, right?
He's at 21. That's one of the
He's on
longest
a
they've had in a
roll.
while. Yeah,
his
he's on a
longest
roll.
career high.
When he got that second and third hit Wednesday, I'm like, come on, save some of those for Friday and Saturday. You just got to spread them out, man. Don't get them all in one night.
Keep on rolling.
All right, Curtis, thanks, man.
Thank you.
And if
Appreciate
you're not
it.
at the ballpark, make sure you're watching KYC because that is where the game will be broadcast tonight. That was Curtis Danberg of the Cleveland Guardians. We appreciate Curtis for coming in. He's always welcome here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We're going to go from one Guardians guest to another after a quick word from FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up at FanDuel.com/UCSS and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And with that, we are thrilled to welcome in Justin Latta, host of the Locked On Guardians podcast, to give us some more baseball takes on tonight's Guardians versus Angels matchup here on WKYC. What's up, Justin?
Loving the Jim Thome pennant, by the way, behind him. That's a nice touch. Very nice touch. Justin, we were talking a little bit with Curtis about this. I don't know if it's a general perception, but I've heard a lot of fans over the last week just continually say, yeah, the Guardians just don't have it this year. They're not going to compete, which is odd to me because over the last 7, they had 4 with Detroit and 3 with the Dodgers, and collectively they won 4 of those 7 games. That's a pretty good record against teams that look like they're definitely World Series caliber teams. What's your assessment through 55 games on what the Guardians have done, and what do you think their ceiling is realistically for the season?
Yeah, it's a good point you brought out. That was a really tough stretch they went through, and they played pretty well. I mean, taking 3 of 4 on the road from the division leader in Detroit, who's been a hot pick for everybody this year. That was a really nice surprise. Didn't think that they were going to be able to do that, but it has been an inconsistent year, right? Like Tanner Bybee started the year off with the food poisoning, couldn't even make his opening day start, and Ben Lively had to make it. He pitched okay, but guess what? Now Ben Lively's gone, and we thought we were going to see a lot of breakout potential in Gavin Williams in spring training. There was a lot of hype around him. It's been an inconsistent start for him this year. Luis Ortiz is still kind of working through it too. We see the flashes of the stuff, but it hasn't quite been there yet. Logan Allen's still trying to get it together. Now they've got to, integrate Slade Ciccone in that rotation, who also dealt with an injury. And I think you also saw that the bullpen has had some inconsistencies from a year ago. We had some blips from Emmanuel Clase to start the year. Tim Herron's been a little bit up and down. The bullpen hasn't been, as dominant as it was a year ago. It's still pretty good, but they've lost some pieces there. And yeah, overall, Kyle Manzardo had a great start. He's been struggling lately, and they haven't really figured out shortstop. They haven't figured out right field. Lane Thomas has been hurt. So, yeah, it's been a very inconsistent year. I think the fact that they're 30-25 at this point and they haven't really played their best baseball is a good thing, as long as they can kind of clear up some of those inefficiencies they have.
Justin, are you giving up on Arias yet?
No. Some of that, they just don't have a better option, right? They already worked through Brian Rocchio, and they told him he had to go to AAA and kind of work on everything. And he's hitting better in AAA, but I don't know how sustainable that is. You're still getting really good defense from Gabriel Arias. You were getting a lot of inconsistency and some errors from Brian Rocchio. Arias is the best defensive shortstop this team has had. I know Rocchio's numbers were good last year, and he was a Gold Glove finalist, but there were still some weird things that stood out in that profile overall. So you're still getting really good defense from Arias. You're getting the occasional power. I think he's shown a little more plate discipline. I think he's always going to be a streaky hitter, but I think not being done with Cavaliers kind of means more right now that they just don't have a better option, so you really can't be done with him.
Justin, Jay's been screaming about the two-hole hitter since March. Who, in your mind, should be the two-hole hitter on this team?
Ideally, it would be Jose Ramirez. I think that's what people have been saying.
Oh, Jay's going to leave
Justin,
his
I was
body.
really digging everything you were saying, and then you went to Jose Ramirez, who's the pillar of this offense.
There you go, Seth.
Yes,
Make your case. Make your case.
That's why he should be hitting number 2. I know.
Okay, who hits
I know
3,
people
4,
are
and
going to
5
rail.
that scares you?
Yes. It's not ideal. They don't have a really good option right now. I think in light of the fact they don't have a better option, it should be Jose Ramirez. You have an opportunity to get him maybe an extra at-bat in a game, and you have the opportunity for him to maybe come up a little bit more with some runners on, and I think you just want to have Jose Ramirez up more. And you put that 1-2 of Steven Kwan and Jose Ramirez together, that's really lethal. I think that's part of why they put Bo Naylor there, because they were trying to find someone to work the count and see a lot of pitches. Same with Dawand Jones. There just isn't really a perfect option if it's not Jose Ramirez. Now, I understand, Jose Ramirez is not the most comfortable in the 2 spot. He likes hitting 3, and it's working in the 3 hole. And he is the guy who is most important to your offense, maybe right along with Steven Kwan. So you don't want to, upset the apple cart a little bit there by doing that. You need to get the best out of Jose Ramirez every single day in order to win. Ideally, it would be him if this was a deeper lineup, but I agree, they don't have a really good spot. They're going to keep trying other options there. I think Angel Martinez is a good fit, but he also has a very aggressive approach at the plate that kind of takes away from what the 2-hole guy could do.
I hear that because I'm big. I'm Angel Martinez. I'm done with it. It's easy. I know he has been in a bit of a slump, but he's proven to me that he's an everyday Major League Baseball player. His hit Wednesday against the Dodgers snatched a victory from the jaws of defeat. That one felt over. It just did. It felt over. You're just like, they're not going to, especially when Hershiser wasn't pitching well. Hershiser.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Boy, I'm showing my age.
Right.
Kershaw wasn't pitching well. I think he'd scattered like 8 or 9 hits, but they only had 1 run, and I'm like, this isn't going to be the day because they don't have a guy that can get a big hit. And then all of a sudden, just when you're starting, I'm counting outs at that point. I think they were 4 outs from defeat. Bam! He hits this mammoth home run. I know you're not going to get a lot of power out of him in that spot. I don't need a lot of power from him out of that spot. Here's what I need out of my 2-hole guy. I do need him to be more patient. You're absolutely right there. But that's something that you can give him to make him work on. He is too aggressive. He's got to see more pitches. But when you fire Kwan and Jose at 1 and 2, I'm just speaking from a pitcher's perspective. I watched the game from the pitcher's mound. I'm not worried about anybody. After that, I'm not. Manzardo, he's gonna fall into one, and he's gonna take you deep a time or two. But he's like a 200 hitter right now. That's not good enough. That doesn't scare me. There's nobody else. Santana's got the potential to do something, but he's so hit or miss. I just think that you need Jose in the 3 spot, and you've got to figure out that 2 with someone other than him. And I don't know who it's going to end up being, but I was really stunned. I know that you said Bo Naylor sees a lot of pitches, but putting Bo in that spot, I mean, he was 0 for 8 with 5 strikeouts in the 2-hole, which is exactly what I expected. I couldn't believe it when I looked at the lineup and saw Bo Naylor was in the 2-hole. So it's a problem. Maybe a Lane Thomas or a David Fry when they come back. I don't know that you want to put them that early in the lineup, but I know what it doesn't look like. And to me, it doesn't look like Bo Naylor, and it shouldn't look like Jose Ramirez because he's the pillar of my offense. I just need him later. And I know that the Yankees, and you see Aaron Judge leading off, and when you're the Dodgers, you have the luxury of leading off Shohei Ohtani. You can do that with teams like that because you have plenty of other bats to filter in down the lineup. The Guardians don't have that luxury, so I just don't want to fire my best bat in the 2nd spot and then give pitchers a 7-hitter stretch where they don't have to worry about stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. That really speaks to the issues the Guardians have. It's not a very deep lineup. In the playoffs, it really worked having David Fry and Kyle Manzardo hitting 2nd last year, and they need Manzardo to play more of a run creation role or a run driving in role in the cleanup spot, and he obviously has struggled a little bit. I don't know where David Fry fits in. I feel like it's going to be a very awkward fit because he can only DH right now, and he kind of becomes a platoon guy, and you're already carrying Manzardo and Santana, who are first base DH only. So that makes David Fry kind of an odd fit as much as they need him, and he was a big help for this team last year. I don't know how they fit him on the roster, truthfully, thinking about it. And Lane Thomas, I don't know if anybody here has had plantar fasciitis, but I know people who have, and we've seen it around baseball. Not good. That's not a great thing. So I don't know how things are going to shake out for him. Obviously, he'd be the ideal two-hole hitter because he does take some walks, and he has power. That would be a good fit, but things have not been good for Lane Thomas when he's been healthy, and he hasn't played well when he was healthy, and now he's not healthy. I would like the idea of moving Carlos Santana up. I know Carlos Santana is not what he used to be, and he's 39. You have to be realistic about that. But in that World Series year in 2016, he became their leadoff hitter, and Francisco Lindor hit third, and they had to figure out the two-hole. I think Santana's a guy who sees a lot of pitches. Maybe you don't hit Jose Ramirez second, but maybe you move Santana up somewhere in the lineup. He has
I'd be
not
better
been
with that.
super comfortable in the two-hole. Yeah, it's a guy who sees a lot of pitches. I mean, could you get away or could you be comfortable with moving Stephen Kwan down to the two spot and letting Carlos Santana try to walk at the top of the game? And Kwan really does have a lot of the qualities you like in a two-hole hitter, right? He's patient. He makes a ton of contact. He can run. That's kind of the old school number two hitter. Maybe he'd be a better fit there if you can slide Santana back into the leadoff role, and that's something he could, kind of recapture from what he's done in the past. But that's, again, it's not perfect because the lineup is lacking a lot of depth right now.
Justin, we have 2 minutes. I'll fire a double question, and I know I shouldn't do that, but we've got to go. So I'm going to ask you about some guys in the minor leagues. First of all, DeLauder, what are you hearing? Are we going to see him this year? And the other is Travis Bazzana. We're talking about him in the WKYC show at 12:30 because he's dropped in Keith Law's player prospect rankings. Do you feel like the arrow has swung downward on Travis Bazzana? Remember, he was the number one overall pick, and the organization had super high hopes for him. And I know he's hurt now, but Bazzana and DeLauder, if you would, just address those quickly.
Yeah, DeLauder, it's going to take some time for him to build up. He's only playing 2 out of every 3 days, and he actually sat twice this week. So I don't think there's going to be an immediate push to get him up here. I mean, he's hitting when he's in the lineup, which is great, but I think there is going to be a thoughtful build-up for him, given his injury history. They've got to ramp up the volume for him, so it could probably be another 3 weeks to a month, depending on how things are shaking out in right field for the Guardians. I do think there's a good potential to see him this year. I think they almost have to see him this year. He would have been up by now if he was healthy, truthfully. And as far as Bazzana is concerned, yeah, there's been some issues with contact quality and just where he's making swing decisions. There is some concern about, I know Keith Law said the swing is a little bit steep. That's something he addressed last offseason going into his final college year, was trying to get the ball in the air to his pull side a little bit more to take advantage of more power. You might have to make some adjustments in pro ball because pitching is better, pitching is different. But a lot of his issues, too, I think, come from passivity. He's a very patient hitter, almost patient to a fault. So that's something I think also has to be addressed. And, yeah, defense is a work in progress with him. But I think the biggest thing to remember about Travis Bazzana is that the work ethic and just how inquisitive he is and how smart he is, I don't have any concerns about whether or not he's going to make any improvements that he needs to reach his full potential. I have no concerns about that when he gets healthy. It's just going to be a matter of knocking that oblique injury out because those can linger, and then he's got to come back and make those adjustments. But he was still performing at a pretty good level despite those issues, truthfully.
Yeah, I was fine with what he was doing, at least numbers-wise. I don't see him every day, so I don't know about the swing angle and the steepness of it and all that, but I trust Keith Law for sure. Justin, thanks. We appreciate you coming on and helping us out with the Guardians. Justin Latta of Locked On Guardians. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank
Justin.
you.
I liked everything you said, but you led me there. When he said Hosey in the 2.
I don't like when people getting dropped 25 spots, and I'm assuming Bazzana was not the number one prospect in Law's book, right? He was taken first, but he was not rated the first.
He was in the top 10. He fell at 25. We'll talk about that coming up in the KYC show. We got some other stuff we got to get to today. Our next topic is brought to us by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build, in practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the all-stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices, from small businesses businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global visions. We'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way, because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most out of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier finds the lane. Discover your success at easierwithepicor.com. That is easierwithepicor.com. All right, our next topic involves the Cleveland Cavaliers. David Aldridge of The Athletic wrote an article from the Indiana Pacers locker room following their Game 4 win. I know Indy lost last night, but some of the quotes he had from Aaron Nesmith and Pascal Siakam about playing through injury really hit home. I want to read you 2 quotes from David Aldridge's article on Pacers players playing through injury and their mentality when they're hurt in the playoffs. And when I read the article, it struck a nerve for me. I'm curious if it hit the same way for you guys. The first quote comes from Aaron Nesmith, who sprained his ankle in Game 3, went on to play in Game 4. Nesmith said, quote, "I was like, I don't care how I feel. I'm playing. This is what we all live for. This is what we've been preparing all year long, our entire lifetimes. These moments, I can't miss these moments." Pascal Siakam was asked about Aaron Nesmith, whether he thought he'd play or not in Game 4. This is what Pascal Siakam said. Quote, "At this point, everybody's got something going on. It doesn't really matter at that point. Everyone just wants to win. You just go out there. You put your body on the line for your teammates." Now, we have talked at length about the Cavaliers' injury issues this postseason. They had 3 guys out for Game 2. Garland missed 4 games between the first series and the second series. You can even go back to last year with Jared Allen and some of the rib injuries that kept him out in the second half of the Orlando series and the Boston series. Jason, I know you and I were texting about this particular article, but when you read what David had to write and you hear what some of the Pacers players had to say about that mentality to play through anything, particularly in a playoff setting, did it rub you the wrong way, considering what we just witnessed here 2 weeks ago with Cleveland?
Yeah, this is complicated for me because I try and be very careful when you're talking about how another man feels in his body. I think we have to be really careful with that. And I was part of the story that we wrote last year on Jarrett wouldn't take the injection and everything else. And I remember saying at the time, like, here's the information. This is what we have. This is what, and there's going to be people who say, take the shot. You're making $20 million a year. It's the playoffs. Take the shot and get out there. And there's going to be other people who say, good on you. Protect your body because no one else is going to protect your body for you. It's on you to make that decision. So this is a complicated issue. The only thing I can tell you is what I said before. After that Game 2 loss at home, and that's really what we're talking. Like, if you really want to drill down on it, we're talking about Game 2, because no one was complaining, and I certainly wasn't complaining when Darius missed the last 2 games of the Heat series.
They didn't need him.
They didn't need him. Nor when he sat Game 1 against Indiana. I thought, well, that's good. Sit till you lose. Obviously, we didn't know at the time how this was going to go, but I thought, yeah, sit him till you need him. Sit him till you lose a game. And then after they lost Game 1, I left the locker room after Game 1. I came on here and said, I think he's playing Game 2. From all indications I've got, he's going to play Game 2. And then he didn't play Game 2. And then they were back for Game 3. Evan missed Game 2 with the ankle. He missed 1 game with the sprained ankle, and then he came back and played on it. DeAndre missed 1, right? DeAndre missed 1 with the thumb.
Yep, correct.
Game 2. So really, if you really want to boil everything we're talking about with the Cavs and the injuries, and they're soft and mental, everything really boils down to Game 2. Is that fair?
Yes, because that's where they lost the series.
Yes. But it's not.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
They got blew out in Game 4.
They did,
Game
but by
2
that
is when
point
it
things were
swung.
sideways. So they were trying to, it's like when you're driving on a slippery road and you lose control. You're not regaining control. The slippery road was Game 2, and at that point it was sideways, and they weren't getting it back.
If you win Game 2, you can get blown out in Game 4, and you're 2-2 coming home.
That's exactly right.
So it's really not that big of a deal. It feels bad in the moment, but you're coming home 2-2.
Sure, which is.
But when you, and I mean, Kobe even said Game 2 is going to haunt them for. So that's really what.
Especially how they lost it.
So that's really what we're talking about here. When you talk about the Cavs and injuries, it really, if you really look at it and pull it apart, you're really looking at Game 2.
Yeah.
And I said I was disappointed that Darius didn't play in Game 2. And I had people from the NFL and NBA texting me after that game saying, I can't believe all 3 of those guys sat. How is it that not one of them is able to play? 2 different leagues.
Not understanding.
People from 2 different leagues texting me saying, I can't believe all 3 guys sat.
I'm a firm believer. I don't believe you start losing in one game. I believe you start losing during the course of a whole year. And the reality of it is, when you playing at the tippy top level, you got to understand the moment, and you got to realize that you can lose games in January that you can lose in March, because it's the mentality. It's, oh, we're good, we're fine, we're okay. Nah, man, you're not okay. Because in the other locker room, their mentality is what you just, at this point, everybody got something going on. And what the Pacers understood was, where is the sense of urgency for the Cavaliers? The Pacers, they could have went into game one, right? And said, okay, we got game one. Cool, we ain't worried about nothing. We got our split. You know what people, the old cliche.
We now have home court.
We have home court. Nah. They said, no, we want the second one too. And they played desperate to get it. They got it. And then when they sensed things could go back the other way, where they could tie it up for the Cavs. Cavs came back in game 3 and 1. Game 4, they said, no. We're not even gonna let you get off the mat. And so for me, the disturbing part about it is, why are you guys still learning these lessons? It's one of them things, and you guys are fathers. You guys, it's everybody's father at one point in time comes to their son and say, "Listen, you're making little kid mistakes. You're not young anymore. I would have forgave this if this was 3-4 years ago. But come on, you did
this last year.
You did this last year. Yep. So my thing is, Darius Garland shouldn't have had to know that this was important. Jared Allen didn't need to know. See, you need to learn sometimes from other people. They could have learned from what Jared Allen said 2 years ago. Couldn't Darius Garland say, that probably wasn't the greatest thing to say, the lights was too bright, and then the next year against the Celtics refused to take the shot to come out and play. And then now all of a sudden, see, that's a trickle-down theory. Now all of a sudden, the stuff that Jared Allen did a couple of years ago, that signaled to Darius Garland, I can miss games in the playoffs too, right? Jared did it. It wasn't no big a deal. We good. We blowing them out. And I go back to it. I didn't like the fact that you was talking, and when you're injured, our coaches used to tell us this: when you injured, you don't do media press. When you're injured, you don't talk to the media. If you haven't practiced all week, you don't get. When you come out and tell Tyler Hero, we just about to hunt, we hunting you. That's how we gonna beat you every single time.
Yeah.
And Tyler Hero looking at you like, you don't play no defense and you ain't playing. So how's you talking? That level of, look, if you're gonna be that involved and you're gonna be doing that amount of trash talking, you better be on the next thing smoking, ready to go to play, hurt, injured, come hell or high water. Yeah. And I think, to me, I don't know if you can coach that out of somebody, or they can just wake up one day and get it. Because guess what? There's guys who have it and guys who don't.
Boy, that last part you said is absolutely true. And I don't think you can coach. I think that's your tiger stripes. You have them or you don't. I agree 1,000% with how you started. Skip Bayless always used to say this, and I would laugh. He would say, I wish there was a machine that you could hook up any human and you could feel exactly what the injury feels like to said athlete, because we don't know. Now, I say that to say this. If it's high school, bro, man, you're talking about your future. Take a seat. This is all good.
But people did it in high school.
There's no legacy on the line here. No. This is what I learned. You can't keep a high school kid off the field.
No.
Yeah. Which is stunning to me, because now I know at 16, 17, 18 years old, you think you're undefeated and you cannot be conquered.
You're right.
And I just think back to my confidence level at that age athletically. I'm like, no, it's okay. I know I can't see out of either eye. I'm going to feel the pitch and I'm going to hit it. And to the point, because ignorance is bliss. Like, we were idiots. We should have been sitting, but we were telling the coach, I got this. I'm good. Let me go. But what's funny is, as you move up levels, all of that changes. In college, these kids, it's different now because they're getting paid now. But up to a couple of years ago, I could forgive a kid. You know, everybody killed Teddy Ginn when he decided, I'm not playing in the national championship game. I'm like, I'm a Buckeye fan. I get it. This dude's got a lot of money to make.
He got hurt.
He did get hurt, but a lot of Buckeye fans still hold that against him. Because he took the opening kick for a touchdown.
Roy Hall.
Hold it against Roy Hall. Listen, now that's another issue. That's totally another issue. But we look at things differently. But you also said something in your monologue when you started that is dead on. You're making $20 million a year. This isn't junior high county championships.
Yeah.
This is your legacy. Whatever Jarrett Allen goes on to accomplish, he's going to have to win multiple championships so he can erase the paragraph in his legacy about not taking a shot in the biggest series of his life. Darius Garland sat for 13 days, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know the number. But
He
it was
missed
about
the
2
last
weeks. Yeah,
two
it was
against
about 2
Miami.
weeks.
Then they had a week off. Then he missed the next two. I'm with you. I can't question another man's toughness. I don't know what he was feeling. But I know this. I know players with a hell of a lot more injury have played with a hell of a lot less on the line.
Joel Bitonio took multiple shots with a high ankle sprain to get back on the field against the Texans in a playoff game the Browns had no chance of winning.
Right.
And he had multiple Toradol shots to get back in.
Well,
and
there is
play.
a difference between a football player's mentality and basketball.
I'm just saying.
Like-
but to shift it back to basketball, when Richard Jefferson, Channing Frye, and Kendrick Perkins
Yeah.
all come out
Yes.
and flame these guys,
Oh, my God.
that carries so much more weight than me sitting here. Like, I can tell you that I got these texts and that this is what people are saying, and people are going to say, well, you're lying, you're making it up, whatever they want to say. When those three guys who have won championships in the NBA and know what it takes, when they come out and say, y'all should have played,
Yeah.
that to me was so revealing. And
Yeah, I
eye-opening.
agree with you. That was damning.
And this year for me, listen, we do this all the time, man. I want to see what people are thinking about this. Everybody talk about minutes restriction, keeping them healthy. Bro, y'all had all the minutes restrictions in the world. Nobody played over 30 minutes. We talked about it ad nauseum all year long.
Their starters played the
Least amount of
minutes of the teams they had to get past.
So when you get multiple guys that come up there and say, you couldn't say this to a high school team. If a high school coach heard this, guess what you would be doing the rest of next season? If you got up there and said, you know what, we played Saving Nations the other day, man, I was just tired. How? How are you tired?
Right.
How? Like, what do you mean how? That's your job to be ready to go. And Kenny Atkinson said they played harder, they were able to sustain longer, they were more physical. That goes to your mentality and your physical shape. The Cleveland Cavaliers this offseason might want to learn from the Browns. I know Curtis said don't compare them, but we're going to compare them because that's what we got. You saw how Camp Cupcake at the Greenbrier worked.
Not well.
Not well.
First time it worked great.
Yeah, listen, now there's two 7-on-7 fields. Jason, I ain't never seen this before. Yeah, we going to compete. Everybody going to compete. Because guess what? People was soft. You got guys. We didn't even see Jed Wills no more. We didn't see nobody. We saw no one. Now, the Cleveland Cavaliers need to go into training camp, and Kenny needs to say, did I get them ready to play? Because when I played Rick Carlisle, his boys was ready to go. Yeah. They was ready to go. I want to see them. What is the reason Jared Allen can't gain 15 pounds of muscle? What is the reason Darius Garland can't get in that weight room and give me 10 pounds of muscle?
Yeah.
There is no reason.
I was just thinking about this as you're talking. If Darius plays game 2 and they lose, are we talking differently about this team?
See, I think, Jay,
Yes.
they don't lose. I just don't.
But what? No,
Now,
they do.
Yes, we probably are.
And that's
because he played, so we're not going to question his toughness.
Evan missed one game with a sprained ankle.
Right.
Is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
DeAndre missed one game with a dislocated thumb. That's
Yeah.
it.
So this is not an issue.
So we're really going back to Darius missing game two is really what this comes down to.
And you know what? The reason I say they wouldn't lose
because he was back in game 3 and played every game after that.
Yes, but to me, the things that I was watching the last 2 minutes of that game, and I just kept saying, I don't recognize this team. We couldn't inbound the ball. We couldn't dribble. We
didn't get the ball over half court in the last minute. Yeah, and to your point, if Darius is
and
out
if Darius is in the game, that's even if he's injured.
But guys,
he probably is able to get
at
over
the highest levels. It's only this much.
Yeah,
Jace.
you're right.
It's
But
only this
I'm just saying.
much.
I'm just saying. If Darius plays game 2 and they lose, how much different are we talking
We
about?
would have been.
Yeah.
My uncle
I think
said,
all of this goes away.
Well, then I think
it's kind of crazy to me when you really think about it.
You're right, but I think then that the focus goes to, because you mentioned this too, to me, and these are kind of intertwined, it's about desire. How badly do you want to be the best? Not one of the best, not a regular season paper champion. And to me, I'm watching the Indiana Pacers, and I know they lost last night. I still think they're going to win the series, and they may not, and I could be wrong. But if you could measure desire, this team plays with as much want to, desire, heart, grit, hustle, effort as any team I can remember. And they're far eclipsing the sum of their parts because that's the intangible. How badly do you want this?
If the Cavs played with the same fight
the
Pacers played with, they'd be lethal.
They're in Oklahoma City's shoes right now. They're waiting for the finals.
And that's what I kept saying. Donovan is obsessed with winning. He is consumed by it. But I don't think
one of them is.
I didn't know him when he was in Utah. I didn't cover him. I don't think he had this mentality. So when you go back to the Tiger and the Stripes, and I think multiple failures of losing multiple years of having max contracts, all NBA.
Can he instill that in the other
MVP,
guys?
I don't know.
I don't think that's a transferable skill.
He's farther down the line than everybody else is. They have to catch up to him in terms of that. Will they ever get there? I don't know. The only thing I can say, I wrote it a couple weeks ago when LeBron came back. He basically told all those young kids, shut up and listen to me, do what I tell you to do, and we're going to win. And with a little bit of resistance from Kyrie at times or whatever else, ultimately
they did.
And they did.
Yeah.
So, this is different, though, because LeBron went to Miami. He learned how to win. Donovan's never won. So it's why I wrote a couple weeks ago, the Cavs hired a Sherpa to get him up a mountain who's never climbed that mountain.
That's a great way of putting it.
So they're trying to figure this out together, but that's not totally uncommon. Oklahoma City didn't know how to do it until they did it. Golden State didn't know how to do it until they did it.
So you
Indiana's
we got a minute and 5 super chats, so I hate to end this. We got to get this.
I forgot it's Friday, and we're
done. That's why we got to wrap. KW Outdoors said, I know this won't happen because of injuries, but would a straight swap of Don for Jason Tatum or Evan for Jaylen Brown give the Cavs a championship?
No.
Okay.
Loverboy
Charlie says, let's say Shedeur starts halfway through the season and wins you 5 games. The Browns go 6-11, but Arch Manning comes out. What do they do with their 2 first-round picks?
We need context.
That's why I keep saying they both need to be really bad or one of them needs to be really good.
Right.
The worst thing that can happen is you're stuck in the middle and you're not sure what you have.
It's
DB Dog 21 says, do you think the guards regret losing Naylor and Jimenez?
No.
No, Jimenez is. I haven't looked at him lately. But
He's still hurt. He's still in the IL.
Okay. Well, he started like first 3 games. He was going nuts, and everybody said, "What a mistake!" And then
the first wild
180.
Naylor's having a very good year offensively.
Last one. Jeremy Long says this is the 3rd year in a row they've been punked. This is not a one-off. It's their DNA. They're soft, and changes are needed. Darren Allen go first. We'll see you on Channel 3 or the WKYC Plus app in 3 minutes.